You know what's even more amazing? Modrons.
Yeah, well, let's get into something that is the opposite of slime. We're going to be talking about the Clockwork Soul. Break it down for me.
All right, the cosmic force of order has suffused you with magic. The power rises from Mechanus, or a realm like it. But really, there's no other realm like it. A
There
plane
is
of
no other
existence.
realm like it. It's just giant gears.
Yes. I'm going to pause there because we just put up the art for this character, which I love that you're just surrounded by tiny little modrons, like an army of spectral modrons.
Oh, I didn't even notice. Oh, that's
Oh,
amazing.
it's adorable with the big eyes and the little wings. I love it so much.
You're so happy.
I love it so much. You or someone from your lineage might have become entangled in the machinations of the modrons, the orderly beings who inhabit Mechanus. Perhaps your ancestor even took part in the Great Modron March. Whatever its origin to you, the power of order can seem strange to others, but for you, it's a part of a vast and glorious system. So yeah, if you don't know what modrons are, they are, so Mechanus is literally the plane of order.
Yeah.
It is all machine creatures, and the modrons are a series of creatures that you can find in the monster manual that are all, they look like clockwork automatons, and they come in various versions, and they have a very strict hierarchy and
Incredibly strict.
very, very strict. And the Great Modron March is a thing that they do once every so many years, and the number is escaping me, and I'm probably being corrected in chat. And Mechanus, who is
Every 25 years or something, or 300 years, I can't remember.
It's a number that makes sense in binary, and it's just gone from my brain. Mechanus just sends out an army of modrons to go catalog. No one's actually really sure what exactly the purpose is. People think it's to do like a catalog of the universe. It's kind of destructive because it's just a giant army of metal people, and if you get in their way, they make you move. Because they're very single-minded, so they're like, if this is the path we're taking. If you're in our way, now we're going through you. But they're also kind of adorable, and it's they're ridiculous. So
there's amazing art if you look up Mechanus. There's this stunning art of just gears that are like the size of cities interacting with each other. So it can be a very evocative world to send your players to. It's pretty amazing.
It is. And order is one of those ideas that it's not necessarily like good and evil or lawful and chaotic. Order is very malleable to your perception. And so I think this is kind of like the whole idea of the paladin ethos, in where you can go in a bunch of different lawful or chaotic or evil or good directions with this, but you better have a date book.
And as someone who used to repair antique clocks for a living, it does have a certain interest from me. But boy, order requires patience. I will say that. So let's jump in. Clockwork magic. You learn additional spells when you reach certain levels in this class, as shown on the Clockwork spells table. Each of these spells counts as a sorcerer spell for you, but of course doesn't count against the other spells that you know. Whenever you gain a sorcerer level, you can replace one spell you gained from this feature with another spell of the same level. The new spell must be of abjuration or transmutation from the sorcerer, warlock, or wizard spell list. This is really interesting. This is the second time we're seeing it. So if you don't agree with the spell list, you can always change it up, and that's what we saw in the Aberrant Mind as well. And I think that's nice because you might have very different ideas about the flavor of this. So starting off, we got alarm. Makes perfect sense. If you want to really get to the clock of everything, having an alarm or a cuckoo noise go off is pretty entertaining. Protection from evil and good. Again, this is a good neutralizer. Aid, lesser restoration. Again, getting rid of things, helping your compatriots. Dispel magic, tons of sense. Protection from energy. Freedom of movement. Summon a construct, which this is going to be very fun. Because how are you not going to flavor that as a Modron? Or your own little Warforged, who knows? And then we have Greater Restoration and Wall of Force. This all thematically makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And once again, this is a sorcerer that has the Manifestations of Order table to help you kind of flavor the way that you're casting these spells, the way that things are coming across. And it's a lot of clockwork stuff. Spectral cogwheels hover behind you. The hands of a clock spin in your eyes. Your skin glows with a brassy sheen. Floating equations and geometric objects overlay your body. Your spellcasting focus temporarily takes the form of a tiny clockwork mechanism. The ticking of gears or ringing of a clock can be heard by you and those affected by your magic. So
this is all very triggering for me.
We joked with the aberrant mind that it leans way into the creep, that it's super tentacle creepy, and that even when they're trying to offer you options, there's still powers in there that are very well honed into the slimy. It's a similar type of aesthetic, except we're really diving deep into I wanted to be an artificer, but I didn't want to put in the work, so I just got magic from Mechanus. And I didn't want to be a warlock and or pray to him or anything.
Yeah.
So I just do clockwork stuff for fun. Like, that's what this is.
I could see my character Rend doing this, typically Forge Domain, but this makes a lot of sense, especially for the origin story of that. I love all of this, again, this all cracks me up. Having a brassy sheen, all of this. I think this is great flavor. Again, very triggering for anyone who repairs clocks, which is like about 5 people on the planet. So
I do also think if you do want to go creepy with this, the spell that I constantly for me, this is amusing and adorable, and I tend to want to go into the fun of it. Right. But I also think about, and it's a cleric spell, Toll the Dead, and how that can get that bell that rings out that is coming to your friends but terrifying to your foes. Like the idea of not these cute little mechanical devices and fun little bits of clockwork, but like Big Ben coming to kill you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of mythology around clocks. The doomsday clocks show up in lots of stories. Clocks have been mystified. Automatons have been mystified from the get-go. So there's a lot of creepy ways you can take this, and if you watch a clock in the walls, again, another great example of that kind of making clocks a creepy thing.
Yeah.
So first level, we have Restore Balance. Your connection to the plane of absolute order allows you to equalize chaotic moments. When a creature you can see within 60 feet of you is about to roll a d20 with advantage or disadvantage, you can use your reaction to prevent the roll from being affected by advantage or disadvantage. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses after a long rest. This can really make or break a situation.
Absolutely, especially at low levels where you're already not as powerful as you might need to overcome disadvantage.
Right.
And 60 feet is also far enough that you can be the backline person and get the frontline people. You can be the frontline people and get the backline. You can help or hinder anybody that you need on a battlefield, or if you're in a social situation, if this is the kind of thing and where you're trying to help your bard talk their way through stuff, and your charisma check is a disadvantage because they're just not they're not as persuasive as they normally are, or something went wrong, and then you're like, nah.
And think of all of those conditions in D&D that cause disadvantage or advantage. Being prone, being poisoned, being in darkness and effectively blinded. All of these different conditions that will impose this, you can stop it either way.
And you can do it as a reaction, and it doesn't require you to do anything. There's nothing, you're not saying anything, it doesn't require anything except using your reaction, which is also really powerful, especially in role-playing situations.
Absolutely. Yeah. This has a lot. I mean, it doesn't look very shockingly amazing at first, but you're going to be using this a lot. So this also negates, a sneak attack from a thief, for example, a rogue, I should say. So tell me about Bastion of Law.
So you can tap into the grand equation of existence to imbue a creature with a shimmering shield of order. As an action, you can expend 1 to 5 sorcery points to create a magical ward around yourself or another creature you can see within 30 feet of you. The ward lasts until you finish a long rest or until you use this feature again. The ward is represented by a number of d8s equal to the number of sorcery points spent to create it. When the warded creature takes damage, it can expend a number of those dice, roll them, and reduce the damage taken by the total rolled on those dice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a nice mitigation thing.
It's not temporary hit points. So it's not, you don't have to worry about things stacking. I mean, this can stack. Very good. So,
and the fact that you've got some play there with the number of sorcery points that you can use gives you a ton of options, especially at lower levels and where sorcery points are still a very, very finite resource.
Right.
When you're like, I don't need to shield you from everything. I just need to prevent you from dying, from getting super hurt, from, whatever it is.
Especially if you know that such a situation is coming up, right? I would be very tempted to put this on a rogue so they can close the distance and not be too worried about getting squished. I don't know. The barbarian feels like a bit much. I mean, no one's taking the barbarian down if you do this, but
but there are those times, especially as you get to higher levels, in where all of a sudden you're being attacked by stuff that is not doing piercing, slashing, or bludgeoning damage, and suddenly. Like it's impressive how quickly you can actually take down a barbarian when you're not having to deal with their resistance. This is also really useful for if you've got a spellcaster who is concentrating on something. You don't want them to break their concentration because the magical ward prevents damage from happening. So
very, very good point.
As long as you don't take any damage, you don't have to make that Constitution saving throw. So
that's a good point.
It has a ton of uses. It is very versatile.
Trance of Order. Tell me about this. This is 14th level.
Sure, you gain the ability to align your consciousness with the endless calculations of Mechanus. As a bonus action, when you enter this state for 1 minute. Oh, you can enter the state for 1 minute. For the duration, attack rolls against you can't benefit from advantage. And whenever you make an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw, you can treat a 9 or lower on a d20 as a 10. Once you use this bonus action, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you use 5 sorcery points to use it again. Hey, you like some monk?
Wow.
You want some monk in your sorcerer? Here's a little monk in your sorcerer. Enter a stance. Enter a state of being. And suddenly, nobody gets advantage on you?
No one gets advantage on you.
That's amazing.
Whenever you make an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw, you have reliable talent for everything.
Yeah.
This is so powerful. This is great. Okay, you're kind of a tanky sorcerer at this point.
Or this is the moment where darkness has been dropped and you don't want, for reasons you don't want to leave the darkness, but you don't want to have disadvantage while you're in there. This is when you are concentrating on something and you want to have the bonus to your saving throw, or the bonus to your saving throw against an effect that's is going to be coming. Kind of the clockwork nature of the multiverse to an extent that kind of supersedes, say, a diviner, right? That's that first ability, that second level ability of portent, where you adjust rolls. It doesn't matter. This is just like, I am Doctor Stranging right now. I have seen 14 million outcomes, and I know what this one outcome is going to be, kind of thing. And it's a bonus action, which means you can plan for your action to do it. So you can be like, I really need to succeed on this. Whatever. I'm going to become this new creature for a second. I'm going to realign my innards. I'm going to, alter for a full minute. Yeah. You get it. You can use it again if you want to just spend some more sorcery points. So, you can burn some spell slots and get those sorcery points and just be this way. Yeah. Now this is the thing that's going to excite you. This is your turn, correct? Clockwork Cavalcade. Well, I think it's your turn to talk about it. Oh, it's mine. Okay, yay. I'm just excited about the title of this because unlike the title of all of the Aberrant Mind stuff, flesh. It's just like, it's the Clockwork Cavalcade. Yay! It is fun to say, Clockwork Cavalcade. It's that image of the parade going down the streets of Waterdeep and all the confetti and everything.
You summon that's delightful. So at 18th level, this is your capstone, and I am falling in love with this subclass now, as I am wont to do. You summon spirits of order to expunge disorder around you. As an action, you summon the spirits in a 30-foot cube originating from you. The spirits kind of look like modrons or other constructs of your choice. I would prefer the Island of Misfit Toys in this case. The spirits are intangible and invulnerable. They can create the following effects within the cube before vanishing. The spirits restore up to 100 hit points, divided as you choose among a number of creatures of your choice in the cube. Any damaged objects entirely in the cube are repaired instantly. Every spell of 6th level or lower ends on creatures and objects of your choice within the cube. Once you use this as an action, you can't do so again until a long rest, or if you spend 7 sorcery points. This is kind of amazing if someone is like trying to batter down a wall of a castle, right? Or a door or whatever. You're just like, no, it's repaired. Any object. Doesn't mean like it's really hard to break a magical object, but like anything that is damaged in this cube, repaired instantly, that's a game changer. Destroyed bridge, whatever, doesn't matter. You just snap it back into existence. Giving 100 hit points amongst your friends, super great too.
And I actually, that last one is kind of my favorite, specifically because it talks about it ends on creatures or objects. Well, but it's also of your choice, because I think if you're talking about ending effects on your friends, they probably also have some positive things going on too. So being able to pick and choose, being able to say, yes, I want the bane to go away, but not the bless. I want, the whatever the spell is that's happening. I'm thinking of a whole bunch, but I think they're higher than 6th level. They might be 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
But 6 is still really, really good. And to be able to just wipe away all of the debuffs and leave the things that you want, that's really nice.
Yeah.
How long does it stick around for?
It's instant. This is this is not like a nonstop. You keep on getting 100 hit points. It's one and done.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So you do have to do a little bit of planning ahead of time. It's not you do have to, because 30-foot cube is big. But I could definitely see it not being big enough and needing the moment to be like, all right, no, a little to the left, get some of those flying people to come on down, get some of the barbarian to come from the back. It's just like, all right, gather up everybody. We're going to take a picture and I'm going to give you some hit points back. It's going to be great. Oh, and he's frozen. And so while we wait for him to be unfrozen, I'm going to look at the questions we have from the chat about the most adorable. I just love this subclass so much.
I think this is pretty great.
And he's back. Order is restored.
Am I back?
You're back. So
I would have said, I know a square makes a lot of sense, but if it's a clockwork, you will almost never find squares in clocks. They do occur with a couple of mechanisms, but I would say a gear. I would say a sphere possibly, or a circle, but
so, I don't disagree, but I'm going to argue for a cube, because here is the messy thing when it comes to spheres or circles is you always end up with those if you're looking at battle
those
map,
outliers.
Like does it work in this? Is it close enough? Is it using up is the circle in enough of that? You got a cube and it is very clear. You can count the cubes
on the hex map.
And so, of course, why wouldn't this subclass be so exact that there's no questions? All right, questions from the chat. Yeah, CT Joyce wants to know, how much fun is it going to be to mess with your party's shenanigans as a clockwork?
I don't recommend it.
Yeah, I mean,
because this is no save situation, and I really don't like no save situations. Like doing that, I think it's like doing it once or twice is kind of funny, but it can be really kind of demoralizing if you don't let, everyone should get a save. And if you do use abilities that are like, if you're doing that to the rogue and taking away their advantage, that's a bummer. That's fundamental to who they are. So I don't recommend doing that to your party.
I think if it is true shenanigans, if people are being ridiculous
Yeah,
and and it's not a life or death situation, especially since what you're doing is you're not necessarily making them fail, you're just removing advantage, which does kind of stink, So I
yeah.
wouldn't. I
Don't be
agree.
habitual.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. You don't want it to be with any character. You don't want it to be the kind of thing and where you're doing that to your party too at all, because you're supposed to be having fun together. But yeah, every once in a while having that way, or I would say
if the
those.
party is having an argument about something, like it really is like we do not agree with what you are doing is wrong,
Yeah.
and that's a fundamental character perspective difference, and that makes sense narratively. I think that then that's way more okay. Like, I love moments like that when they're earned, where there's two opposing views. We see that in Critical Role. We have those critical situations where you get like really tense because you're like, oh no, they're fighting. Because
But then what makes it work is you make up afterwards and then you learn from it, and so it becomes the kind of thing in
yeah,
where like what I really like about this subclass is it's not written so strictly around order that it is a paladin's ethos. It really is. It's a way of thinking about your interaction with the universe, and so
exactly.
you're not necessarily needing to have that instinctual reaction of watching Phasma walk behind Todd at some point. It really is just being able to see the universe in a very specific way, and understanding that it's okay for there to be some chaos and you don't have to fix everything. Did I do good? Let's go
You
on
did
to another
great.
question.
I'm trying to keep it together.
Well, then I'll ask another question. We'll keep going.
Got some last minute holiday chicanery happening behind me.
It's all fun. Would a castle wall truly be entirely within the 30-foot cube? Would that count?
Okay,
A
listen,
castle gate.
it's a 30-foot cube, so that you're for perspective, that's about the size of a classroom. So imagine that kind of square. That's a significant portion of a wall that could collapse. And yeah, if you're using, for what reason I have no idea, a device specifically on a wall instead of a drawbridge, that would repair that wall depending on the castle. There are some castles that only have 30-foot walls. It's true.
Yeah, but I guess it is a fair question because it's supposed to be some spirits. It has to be entirely within the cube, right?
Oh,
So would a wall, you could get the section of the wall that you
I
want.
feel like I would allow the section of the wall. I don't think that's overpowered, and only that section of the wall, and everything else would be damaged. Because what do you define? Like, what are these individual bricks? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I would allow it, and then I mean, really, drawbridge instantly repaired. Yeah, that would fix most drawbridges.
Yeah, any
or
damaged
most gates.
object entirely in the cube are repaired instantly. So, as rules is written, you could probably get into a discussion about things like walls. But yeah, I think it would be more apt to say a drawbridge or the portcullis or something like that.
Imagine if there's a time travel device made by gnomes, right? That had all of these spinning gears and everything. You're just like, and it gets destroyed, and you're like, no, it's back. Like, that's like, okay, we're back in business. Let's do some time travel stuff.
Exactly.
If you want to watch, Endgame, if you look at that time travel device, that fits within 30 feet. So,
yeah, that's true. I had to think about it for a second. Yeah. Another question, would you say Clockwork Cavalcade, which I just like saying, could repair armor and weapons damaged by oozes? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It says all items.
Any damaged object entirely in the cube are repaired instantly. So
that would also include magical items, which are exceptionally hard to destroy. Honestly, most damage doesn't affect magical items unless, as I've learned, by being sneaky with my castmate Hope Lavelle, is that if you are a god, your magic can actually affect magical items and destroy them, including your spells, and like cases like using Shatter. But yeah,
but how often do you get to be a god?
Not often enough.
Like you're god, like you're god adjacent.
It's a weird loophole. It's fun. It's a weird loophole. But yeah.
I think gods in D&D are just defined by being weird loopholes, right?
Oh yeah, completely. If you look Rhyme of the Frostbane, that's what I like about playing my character Averin is he's like, oh, I'm a god, but I have no power. Yay! Like it's just a moniker. It's a really crappy moniker at that.
Well, but it's a loophole, so that's all that really matters. One more question. With these new subclasses, what spells would you take to replace any of the psionic or clockwork spells?
Ooh, I would really have to think about that. I don't know.
I mean, if I could somehow get access to Toll the Dead on this Clockwork Soul, absolutely.
Well, Toll the Dead, like, see, that's not included as cantrips.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because so that's what we're looking at replacing here now. We got a little bit of time, so we could think about this really quick. So this is transmutation or abjuration spells.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking replace in general as instead of if we're sticking to transmutation and abjuration. I
think that's a great builds character almost by itself as a topic, to be completely honest. But
yeah, definitely.
So let me go over to handy dandy D&D Beyond here, and we are going to go to spells.
The interesting thing about both of those spell lists is how much they're not necessarily about doing destruction.
It's wizard, warlock, and sorcerer.
Wizard, sorcerer, warlock, and wizard spell list. That must be an abjuration or a transmutation spell.
Okay, so I'm gonna go into D&D Beyond here. I'm gonna put those on. So.
Yeah, I do wonder how many there are out there that are directly damaging, that are not just like blade ward or something like that, and where it's a damage by proxy. Because that's what I would be kind of tempted to go for, because I feel like so much of this class is about that kind of mitigation that I'd want some of the other damage options.
Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so we've got like absorb elements. We've got alarm, which is part of that.
Yeah.
Alter self, animate objects, anti-magic field, arcane lock. I already said armor of Agathis, I thought, but that's interesting. Banishment makes a lot of sense.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Banishment would,
and then totally you'd be able to just use sorcery points to cast banishment.
And banishment totally fits in the ethos of like, you don't belong here. This is not where you belong. Go back.
Blade ward. I just finished watching Tenet, which I think is a fantastic film. I may be the only audience meant for it. Because of how my mind works, and if Lauren watches it, she'll know exactly what I mean. But
I'll
Blink,
give it a try.
Catapult does damage, and I think that's interesting. I would flavor it as you are like making this thing reverse somehow, and that's the catapult. Like you're winding back the clock. Control flames, control water, control weather, control winds, counter spell.
Oh yeah.
And listen, if you are casting counterspell without any components,
you're casting counterspell without any components, and then what's the?
There's no.
You're trancing, so if you do have to roll because your counterspell isn't a high enough level, you now automatically at least get a 10 on your roll. So if you need to counter something that is a higher level than you have a counterspell for, being able to use your trance to be able to do that. I mean, you wouldn't be able to activate at the same time because counterspell is a reaction, but if you have your Trance of Order up and then you counterspell, that'd be really good.
It's real strong. Create Homunculus, create Magan. This is a new spell. Dark Vision, Disintegrate is transmutation.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah. Oh, Disintegrate is super powerful.
I actually I'm glad this question was asked, because this really allows you to flavor both the Aberrant Mind and also the Clockwork in a big way. So Dispel Magic, Dragon Breath, Earth Bind, Elemental Bane, Enhance Ability, Enlarge, Reduce, Erupting Earth, Etherealness, Expeditious Retreat, Fabricate, Featherfall, Flame Arrow, Flesh the Stone, Fly, Gaseous Form, Glibness, Globe of Invulnerability, Glyph of Warding, Guards and Wards. Like there's tons of spells here. That's a big spell list to be able to dip into actually for the sorcerer.
Yeah.
We got polymorph. All of this stuff makes sense that you're able to manipulate. So when I'm looking at this transmutation and abjuration, and it's coming from sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards, whoa, you have a lot of choices. Ridiculous.
And a lot of choices that still fit very clearly within the flavor of either of the two subclasses, but especially Clockwork Soul, like
Yeah.
Fabricate.
Shield, true polymorph.
Fabricate is so much fun,
Yeah.
and of course a Clockwork Soul is going to be tinkering, you know.
So what were the real quick? We're out of time. Let's go a little bit teeny itty bitty long. So
Okay.
what are the spells? What's the schools for the Aberrant Mind, real quick?
Schools for the Aberrant Mind are the Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard spells that are divination or enchantment.
Whoa, boy. Now this isn't going to be as game changing necessarily, I would think, because of you're not getting that kind of reliable talent ability, but yeah, we got Arcane Eye, Charm Monster, Charm Person, Clairvoyance, Confusion, Contact Other Planes, Detect Thoughts, Encode Thoughts, Enemies Abound, Enthrall, Feeble Mind. These all make sense. It's a smaller spell list for sure.
Oh, you do contact other planes and then you fail on your roll as an Aberrant Mind sorcerer, and now you're
it's really bad now.
and now you're just
you're a little more resistant, actually, right? Because psychic damage and being charmed or frightened.
Isn't the really bad thing about contact other planes is if you fail that roll,
it's not great.
It's not good. It's not good at all.
Power kill, modify memory. Irresistible dance, psychic scream, synaptic, static, telepathic bond, true strike, true seeing. Yeah, this is a good list. Clockwork gets more by a long shot. But I really like this. I think that kind of makes these two subclasses in a way. Like you're getting a chance to say, hey, I really like the spell list, but later on I want to like really make something else my own.
And we don't have enough time to go into it now, but there's also a whole bunch of new meta magic options in Tashas.
Yeah.
That I think the one that I like the best is the transmute spell, with the idea that you can use a sorcery point and change the damage type of a spell, which is incredibly powerful, for those moments in where you're like, I have the perfect spell, but it does fire damage, and this thing is fire resistant. It's not fire resistant anymore.
Now it's an acid fireball. Now it's an ice ball. Now it's a snowball.
Exactly. It's so much fun. So definitely check those out in Tasha's when you get a chance.
All right. Well, thank you, Lauren Urban, our community manager over D&D Beyond, and also a very, very good friend. And happy holidays to everyone. Thank you so much for being part of the D&D community. Be safe out there. We love you. We hope you have a great day. Anything?
Love you all. Happy holidays.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye.
Tasha's Cauldron of Everything is available now on D&D Beyond. Purchase before January 5th to unlock the Cauldron dice set, as well as character sheet backdrops, themes and frames.